Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Today I'm going to be making a cake that requires 3 ingredients if you don't count any sprinkles. But if you want to count sprinkles or little decorations, then that would be 4. But we're going to be making a 3 ingredient cake. It's a classic icebox cake. It's a retro recipe for zebra cake or the famous chocolate wafer cake. So lovely Brenda, who's been following me for years, got in touch with me and asked me to make this cake that she remembered from her childhood, and she wondered how when you cut the cake it got its beautiful striped pattern. I had never heard of a zebra cake before, so I went and researched it, and it's a very super simple cake. It's a classic icebox cake. It's made of cookies spread with whipped cream or some kind of frosting and then placed in the refrigerator to sit for a few hours or overnight, in which the cookies absorb the moisture from the frosting or whipped cream and turn into a cake. A cake that doesn't require any baking whatsoever. This is a feat of magic and I cannot wait to see it and make it myself. Also, when this cake is cut, it has a beautiful zebra pattern. That's where it gets its name, zebra, meaning that the whipped cream is alternated by these dark chocolate wafers, and so you get this stripy pattern. And when you cut it on a bias or on an angle, you can see the stripes. So I had to make this because it's so super simple and I want to know what it tastes like. I can kind of imagine what it tastes like, but this cake is super simple. Only 3 ingredients, and 2 of those ingredients are what make the whipped cream. The first thing we're going to need are these. These are famous chocolate wafers. This is what they look like. I just purchased them at the grocery store, and this is an example of the cake we're going to be making. In fact, on the back of the box, it gives you the recipe right there for the famous chocolate refrigerator roll, also known as an icebox cake or a zebra cake. See? 3 ingredients, super simple. So I'm just going to be following the recipe on the back of this box. I'm going to be whipping up my own whipped cream, but you can save even more time and use frozen whipped topping if you like. But I really love the flavor of freshly whipped cream. Even though I'm lactose intolerant, I will take a lactose enzyme just so I can have a little bit of whipped cream. So this couldn't be any simpler. First, you get yourself a box of cookies. Next, we're going to whip up some whipped cream. I'm gonna grab some vanilla and got my beater here. If you don't have an electric mixer, you can of course whisk this by hand, but we're also going to need some electrons, so make sure I have this plugged in. Okay, and power's on. Actually, I have 2 cups of whipping cream. This isn't whipped cream yet. I'm going to add that to our bowl. It helps if the whipping cream is nice and cold. And we're just going to beat this on high until we get nice stiff peaks, but not too stiff because this will turn into butter if you overturn it. So err on the side of doing it a little bit lighter. You can always add a few more little air bubbles afterwards to perfect the texture. So here we go. This is a really powerful mixer. It's super loud, so I'm not going to talk while I mix this. So here we go. Level 1. So that was all of 30 seconds, and already this is thickening beautifully. We want it to be a little thicker than that, so a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna grab a spatula, give this a couple turns. Look at that, isn't that amazing? It whips up so fast. Look at that, beautiful. A little bit more, I think, just a little bit more. Spatula down a little bit more. So that portion that I just whipped in the middle got a little thicker, and now I'm mixing it with the part that's not as thick. So I think we are pretty much there. Look, so easy, and it's pretty stiff. Okay, I'm gonna add our vanilla. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Bloop. Now we're gonna mix that vanilla in there. Okay. All right, I think we're there. Yep, there we have it. I'm gonna use an offset spatula. This is my favorite tool for frosting and the like. This little bit of an angle here is super handy, super handy. Okay, I'm gonna open my box of wafers. Here's the chocolate wafers, and there's a whole sleeve of them, and they're really nice and dark, like an Oreo cookie, but much thinner. See how thin they are? Smooth side and the kind of rough side. So let's go ahead and give one of these a taste. I've never had one of these. Snap nicely. Here we go. Itadakimasu. And they're a lot like you would imagine. They taste just like an Oreo cookie. That dark chocolatey flavor, not overly sweet, just a little bit of sweetness. It tastes so much like an Oreo, you kind of miss the sweet cream filling. You're like, where's the cream filling? And of course, these are much thinner than an Oreo. Although actually, the Oreo thins are kind of similar in this texture. They have more of a snap than kind of that crumbly bite. Flavor is very similar, just sans cream filling, which is almost kind of sacrilegious. But this isn't an Oreo. This is a famous chocolate wafer. I like it. Just slightly sweetened. I think it would be great kind of dipped in coffee or something, kind of soften that crunch, although the crunch is nice. Alrighty, so now we are ready to assemble the cake. So I got myself a long plate here, and we're gonna take our freshly whipped cream. It's flavored with a bit of vanilla, and we're gonna put a little pile on here like this, in a line. This is gonna be the spackle that holds up the cake. Okay, just like that. Doesn't have to be fancy by any means. Okay, now we're going to take a chocolate wafer, like this, and then we're gonna take a dollop of whipped cream, maybe about a teaspoon and a half. And I found if tapping it in the middle kind of distributes it nicely, but there's really no specific method. We're just making a sandwich. Now we're adding another wafer on top. So now it looks a little bit more like an Oreo. Give it a little squinch so that the cream comes out the edges. And then we're gonna repeat. Take a dollop, tap it right in the middle to get it distributed. Take another wafer and push. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so now we have a little stack of 3 cookies, and now we're going to place it right here on the end of our plate. Now the reason why we did that was that we want it to be stable enough to stand up. If we just put one cookie, it wouldn't stand up as well. So there we have it. The beginnings of our cake roll. Now you just repeat. Add a little dollop of cream. Boom, 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 boom. Pulse it. Smear it however you want to do it. And then attach it to the others. And give it a little press. Right? Repeat. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and build this entire roll, and I'll be right back. We now need to frost this with more whipped cream. We're just going to cover everything up. Cover everything up. Make sure all those nooks and crannies are filled with whipped cream. They're going to hydrate the cookies so that it turns into a cake. Now, from my understanding, refrigerator cakes or icebox cakes are an old-fashioned treat back when people had ice boxes, and a very simple way to make a dessert and not have to bake anything, and then just take something out and have a sweet treat for everybody. You can make it the night before. In fact, the recipe says 4 hours for this to turn into a cake, but some other recipes I read recommend doing the overnight thing just to ensure everything is nice and soft. So we're just going to cover everything up here. No need to get fancy. I suppose that you could pipe the whipped cream on if you like. But we're going for a kind of old-fashioned-y look here, and just kind of swooping the whipped cream around. We're going to pop this into the refrigerator, cover it, pop this in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours, if not overnight, so that the cookies can soften. And last night I did one of these so that we could taste it today. So let me go grab it. I'm gonna do a little swap out so then this one can soften up. So I wrapped this in a bit of foil. Made a little crutch too out of a strawberry container so that it wouldn't get crushed or it wouldn't touch the whipped cream. Worked really well, I think. So here is the cooled refrigerator icebox cake. I'm gonna add some chocolate sprinkles. Around here in New England, we call these jimmies. These chocolate jimmies. See those? Look, seriously, jimmies. Okay, and I'm just going to sprinkle these on top for that kind of old-timey look. Do 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 do. Na 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 na. Do 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 do. Okay, and I've got some raspberries too. Should we put these right on top or down the side? I'm gonna put these right on the top. Some raspberries, just because. Line them up like little soldiers right on top. It looks super fancy, but it's not. It's super simple. Now, I'm gonna take a few pictures and then we're going to cut this open so we can see the big zebra reveal and then give this a taste. Alrighty, lovelies, we're gonna give the chocolate wafer cake a taste. It sure looks good, doesn't it? So cute, reminds me of a sundae or something. So the trick for this cake is that you need to cut it on an angle, like this. See that? At an angle. If you cut it like this and follow the way we layered the cookies, you won't get that beautiful stripy reveal. You have to cut it at an angle. So I'm gonna cut it at a very kind of acute angle. Acute or obtuse, it depends on the direction. Acute, because the finished slice is going to be narrow. All right, thinking out loud here, Pebble. Okay, alrighty, here we go. Look at the stripes, so beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Look at all the stripes. And in the cake as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous. That is why they call it the zebra cake. So pretty. Alrighty, lovelies, let's finally give this a taste. Look how beautiful it is. Look at that beautiful slice. No baking, no hardly workity whatsoever. Amazing. But let's see how this tastes, because it doesn't matter about the effort. If it doesn't taste good, it doesn't taste good. Okay, let's see how this has changed texture. Look at that. And indeed, it's like cakey in texture. Okay, camera, you can do it. Look at that. Boop, boop. I'm gonna take a bite without the raspberry first. Alrighty, here we go. Itadakimasu. Mmm! It's totally cakey. It's light and fluffy, vanilla, slightly chocolate. Mm-hmm. I like that. The raspberry. Oh yeah. I do have to say, oh my gosh, look at that texture. I mean, that looks like a cake. This looks absolutely beautiful. I do have to say, I think for present day taste, this is going to be a little bit less sweet than a lot of people are used to, which I actually prefer. It tastes like a dessert, but it's not heavy and not cloyingly sweet. It's a very light sweetness. In terms of level of sweetness, it reminds me a lot of the baked goods you might find at a Chinese bakery, just kind of lightly sweetened. Some of the chiffon cakes or sponge cakes that have whipped cream in them, a little bit of fruit, they're just lightly sweetened. But again, it's dessert-like and it feels like a treat, but it's not heavy or just so sweet that you feel like you can just take a little tiny bit. This has that level of sweetness and I quite enjoy it. And you get a nice injection of chocolate as well. It's really dark chocolate flavor. And then with the fruit, it's just a perfect little foil. You've got some freshness, some color, some tanginess in this case because we're using raspberries. And the raspberries go really well with the chocolate. Delicious. Lovely. So there you have it, a lovely dessert that looks quite fancy and it takes very little effort whatsoever. Most of the effort is just letting it sit in the refrigerator until the cookies soften up. But the presentation is spectacular. Spectacular. I love the layers in that, and it's oh so easy. And really, just 2 ingredients, 3 ingredients. If you use whipped topping, it would be 2 ingredients. But if you make homemade whipped cream, it's 3 ingredients. And if you add fruit, then it's 4. But we're getting a little technical here, aren't we? It's easy. So if you need an easy, cakey recipe that makes a beautiful presentation, then this one might be the one for you. Although it is on the light, sweet, sugary side. So if that's your cup of tea, then again, this might be yours. But if you want something really decadent, maybe a drizzle of, chocolate syrup on top or caramel might sweeten things up a little bit more for you, if you like. I don't think it needs it. Oh, you know what would be amazing? These cookies would make an amazing ice cream sandwich. Just cookie, vanilla ice cream, cookie. Okay, that's what I'm trying out next. All right, my lovelies, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. I love hearing from you. That's the whole reason why I made this recipe in the first place, is because Brenda got in touch with me. And yeah, check out my website. I'll include a printable version of this recipe. Like this video, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye! There's a really fat squirrel just crossing my yard. I think it just ran out of the chicken coop. That's why it's chubby. Nothing like feeding the wildlife.